What is up, my party people? Today we got our very first WoW Midnight video, and it's going to be going over a brief overview of what we were given in the first alpha notes on Resto Druid. What are some of the big changes coming in, and what are we working with here? So I'm going to cover what is the changes going on for Resto Druid that we are looking forward to, as well as briefly look at the tree as well, what kind of changes have I noticed, and my thoughts on them. So keep in mind, this is the alpha, things will change, but this is the first iteration that we are looking at. And just to give you guys an idea, get you a little excited, because I know I am as well. So let's get into it here. So first we're going to talk about the Druid class tree. So some new talents that are coming in here. So we have Gift of the Wild, so you get 6% verse instead of 3% verse on Mark of the Wild. This is a pretty interesting one. So Heart of the Wild has been redesigned, so it's no longer the 6-minute cooldown or 5-minute cooldown where it gives you a ton of damage for 45 seconds. It's going to be different. So now it is a powerful spell in each form, and for what I've been told, it is a 3-minute cooldown. So you shift into the form you want to use this in, you press Heart of the Wild, and then you will get this button, whatever this is. Okay, so it's essentially bear form. You're just very tanky. The cat form is Feral Frenzy, so it's a powerful bleed plus 5 combo points. Moonkin is Starfall. And then non-shifted, it's an empowered wild growth for big AoE healing. Okay, so this is going to be definitely a really good talent overall, because you're going to be able to use it however you want, for healing, for damage, for survivability. And from what I've been told, also this is I was like kind of let down about Feral Frenzy being a 3-minute cooldown. These are going to be tuned to be very powerful from what I've been told. Okay, so and as we'll tackle into Elder Druid, this might actually be pretty cool to have on, and just have a super powerful to combine this with Convoke and maybe do some like crazy damage with it. So interesting first talent here. Next one here we have Forest Walk, is now 2 ranks. So this is when you cast Regrowth, you gain your movement speed and healing is increased by up to 16%. That's pretty nuts. And if we are combining this with the Incarn Tree of Life, where you're able to pretty much cast Regrowth at least every 6 seconds, whatever it is. I think it's 6 seconds. That's a lot of healing increase receive, and that's a lot of movement speed. So I'm kind of interested in that as well. Matted Fur, so this is just when you press either Survival Instincts or Bark Skin, gives you just a little passive shield. Big one here, losing Skullbash's Resto Druid. That is a huge fuck you to the class, but we'll see. I mean, we still have Typhoon, which is great, and you still have a lot of utility as well, but interesting that they've removed that even from a PvE perspective as well. Innervate is now at the bottom, which is fine, because I don't really like taking that and have to go through that for some other stuff. We're going down to Keeper the Grove here. So Keeper the Grove, essentially they moved before we talk about the hero talents, let's go back to this, because you're not going to get a good understanding of that until you know the general changes. All right, so this is important to read this first. So significantly reducing the number of buffs Resto Druid can apply to allies to make raid frames and target frames easier to parse and always show your important effects. The mastery will be much more effective per healing over time effect active, and can now only apply up to 5 heal over time effects on allies. We are also streamlining several cooldowns and actives we felt were redundant, and with other tools in the kit by either removing them or combining them with other abilities. Finally, reducing the amount of maintenance buffs by making targeted changes to Life Bloom talents and offering a way to maintain efflorescence automatically with Life Bloom. In short, what you'll see as you read through these is that you don't have as many buttons to press, and that is a good change. Please think beyond the pruning, because you will look, as you look at all of these classes, specifically the healers, there is a lot of pruning, but honestly, it's needed. You got to think of the longevity of the game and how important it is for healers to not be healing to be so stressful. We need to make the game simple and allow for outplay, but as long as you still have abilities that can allow for outplay potential, whether it's CC or just utility in general, damage and everything like that, it's going to be a good baseline to build off of going into in the future. So as of right now, with these talents, we're looking at Life Bloom, which is going to be very important. It's going to be even stronger than it currently is. You have Rejuve and Regrowth, Life Bloom, and then you can alternatively have Symbiotic Blooms and Germination. All right, so I don't know how that works, because that's technically 7. It says only up to 5. So I guess afterwards. I did see that it also, on terms of the mastery, so it increases per hot so that you still aren't losing healing. Note, this is the part I did not really like, or why, that the benefit falls off over time, and it's the most effective on your first heal over time. So like if you apply regrowth first and then rejuve, it's not as strong as if you did the inverse, which I don't really like, but we'll see how it kind of ends up in the tuning. But overall, a lot less abilities to maintain, and you're able to hopefully not have to have 17 hots on the target at all times and be spamming and sweating. So the Apex talents are just passives that are going to buff Life Bloom. You know, when you cast Soul of the Forest, you're going to get eight blooms in recession, which is crazy, because yeah, you could also run double Life Bloom, double Swift Mend, which is going to allow you for more Soul of the Forest, and I think that will actually add for some interesting gameplay and a lot more burst healing off of just Swift Mend, which is great. Maybe not need NS as much because you might be using NS for something else. Okay, going down, regrowth heals all the other targets with regrowth. This is a big one here. So Efflorescence will now be placed under your Life Bloom's target. This is great because Efflo is a really powerful ability for Wildstalker because it can trigger the bloom effects, but we don't really have time to place this all the time. But being able to just bundle it with Life Bloom, I mean, in the grand scheme of thing, I don't think it's a great idea. I think it's just too much bundling, but for what we got, it's a good change for us. All right, so when regrowth crits, it's crits for more. That makes it more, you know, meaningful to have, you know, some crit and maybe, you know, having improved regrowth to want to crit more. Flourish redesigned. Now, when you cast Trank, it's going to extend your hots every time it ticks, and Tranquility is no longer a hot. So it's going to be like an extension. So there is no baseline Flourish ability, which we didn't really use in PvP anyway. So Wild Synthesis now increases the healing of Grove Guardians and Efflo by 35%. So the current version is kind of like just a terrible heal that's a purge protection. So honestly, that's a good change for us. Do note, because they didn't talk about this first. So Grove Guardians is now redesigned. You do no longer have the triple stack that you can use out of form, which might be a net nerf. We'll see. Casting Swift Mend or Wild Growth, which I'm not personally a fan of, summons a Treant, and that will be affected by Wild Synthesis and some of the other tree stuff like Keeper of the Grove. So it's going to really pigeonhole you into potentially being forced to play early spring in if you do want to play that Keeper of the Grove. Because being able to cast an instant cast wild growth will spawn another Treant, which will increase your percentage healing by quite a lot. Okay, Cultivation redesigned. Rejuve heals instantly for a certain amount at targets below, so it's no longer an extra hot, which was becoming slightly problematic. We talked about that. Photosynthesis no longer has no longer causes to increase the rate, so it's only bloom chance, so it's just giving you more blooms. No, there is no more budding leaves too. So Trank they buffed. Tranquility increased the duration of it, and then it's just different changes on there. Tree of Life now pauses. The duration is paused during Trank. This is kind of cool because it allows you to not have to choose between using one or the other. All right. Okay, we're combining Soul of the Forest and Power of the Arc Druid. Power of the Arc Druid was like a wild growth based ability, right? How am I dumb here? Power. Oh, it's down here. We didn't even play it. Wild Growth has a 60% chance to cause your next Rejuve or Regrowth to apply with 2 targets. So now improves Soul of the Forest to cause your next Rejuve to apply to 2 additional allies. So again, making it easier to apply hots is going to be really nice to have. Straight up Wild Growth. I'm hoping this doesn't push us to have to cast Wild Growth a lot, and then, you know, consequently use Master Shapeshifter and really maintain your mana intensely to have that crazy throughput. Healing over Regrowth's healing over time duration has been reduced to 6 seconds. That's kind of big. That's literally half. So they're pushing towards the kind of the old school version of Regrowth, where it's a big heal and the hot is not very impactful. Rampant Growth increases the healing over time by 100%. Oh, so okay, so then does that mean it doesn't spread? So this was a pretty interesting talent. Oh, all right. So not having the spread is pretty big change and kind of a gnarly nerf on there. NS is increased on Regrowth. That's just probably to compensate for Regrowth being stronger baseline. All right, Rebundance, Swiftman. Cover the relocations. Excuse me. So note that these are all the talents that we are losing, and go back to just be optimistic so far. It is the alpha that these are actually good things to remove because it reduces the complexity of the class. So no more Send Ward. That's a big one. These were kind of not really choose much, but this is another big one, Overgrowth. So no more Overgrowth, no more Send Ward. So your recovery healing, we'll see how it is, but it should be good in the end of things if Swiftmend does enough healing and Soul of the Forest can do enough healing. Because that's kind of how it used to be. You had to, it kind of sucks that you don't have an instant recovery spell, because you are still kind of pigeonholed into utilizing Soul of the Forest for big heals. So you'll have to like Rejuve, Swiftmend, Regrowth to do any sort of meaningful healing, and casting 3 buttons versus like another class that can just pop 1 ability and recover is kind of a letdown. We'll see how it turns out to be though, because the tuning will depend on it. It will depend. Everything will depend on the tuning. All right, let's circle back to the. My goodness. Up. The Keeper of the Grove. Okay, Keeper of the Grove. So entering. No, we're not gonna read that part there. Your periodic heals have a chance to empower your next Swiftmend to summon a Dryad. So it's kind of a version of the current tier set. And they cast Tranquility at 20% effectiveness and regrowth. So the nice thing about this is it won't be the crazy nerfed version that we currently have, which is really bad, and this Dryad is completely useless. So that's not a bad thing. So Dryad's dance causes Swiftmend's cooldown to reduce 25% faster. That's not bad, because Swiftmend, remember, Swiftmend is going to be pretty powerful. So reducing the cooldown on it is going to be a very nice change. Ironbark also summons a Dryad, so that helps out with your Swiftmend reduced cooldown onto your target and healing them. It also increases your Star Surge damage. That's kind of nice. Is that on here? That's an extra bonus that wasn't a thing before. It says only for balance, but I wonder if that works for. That might work for both. I don't know. That's kind of a nice little niche to have. In terms of Resto here specifically. The minor Send Ward is removed. Is applied by okay, so now increases Grove Guardian's duration by 20%. Okay. Cenarius Might, which I'm really sad about losing this one. I really like this haste talent, but it does buff Swiftmend's healing by 20%, so this is going to give you a nice chunky Swiftmend heal. And like I'm talking about, if you do have this, it might make the recovery healing not a big deal, not having a big like overgrowth, you know. So when Grove Guardians are summoned, they create Dream Petals, healing up to 3 of our allies was the direct heals. Okay, so it's just kind of more passive healing and don't have to worry about you doing a direct heal. Dream Surge to heal 1 additional ally. Early Spring reduces the cooldown of Wild Growth and Swiftmend by 1 second. Okay. Yeah. So, in ends, I mean, Keeper of the Grove will definitely look more appetizing, I'm not going to lie. Especially if Swiftmend becomes a very large part of our healing. And utilizing Soul of the Forest, that might be a pretty important thing to utilize. So Wildstalker, we are kind of lacking a little bit. We don't know the new talents yet on it. They did not show any of the new ones. To my knowledge, there isn't anything changing in these old ones either, right? Symbiotic Blows no longer appears on raid frames. So is it still the same thing? All right. So I wonder if, I imagine maybe this is not going to count towards mastery either. I don't know. We'll have to find out on that. Strategic Confusion. Okay, it's just giving you passive crit instead of crit after you cast Regrowth. But yeah, that's it on Resto Druid, right? Yeah, that's it on Resto Druid. So all in all, if you're looking at all of the trees and whatnot, the class tree really did not change too much. There's some positional changes to stuff like interview down here. You have the Gift of the Wild, which is probably going to be a pretty solid pick. That's an extra 3%. Versatility. One thing I didn't like is they moved Starlight Conduit locked behind Sunfire, which Sunfire is trash and it costs too much mana. So I really don't like this being here. I wish it was just I wish it had both opportunities to go either way here. The cat form stuff is still in the same spot. Cyclone Suit. I think all of this is in the same. It says Skull Bash here. I wonder what this is going to be for Resto. If they don't have that. This stuff's all the same. The new Heart of the Wild, obviously. Okay, and there's something not in the notes like I talked about is, or I didn't mention, in the Resto tree. So let's go over to the trees. I should just be talking about the trees specifically. So we have to choose between prosperity and burden fusion up high, which is nice. There's probably going to be good reasons for both of them. There is no longer double Swiftmen, just one Swiftmen, because we are also getting the opportunity to use NS Cyclone. So really interesting to have that choice between offensive and defensive, which is cool. And yep, okay, these are all the same. They just kind of move some of the stuff. Solar Forest still the same. Effluent will actually be useful, like we talked about, because you can link it to Life Bloom. This stuff's all the same. Okay, so Rampant Growth still does apply to your other targets, so that's good. Regenesis is still there. Grove Guardian's still there. You're definitely gonna want Wild Synthesis now. Power of the Arc Druid, so you're definitely gonna want that as well. This is where the old mastery stacking thing was, so that's good. Cultivation probably not gonna take if you're gonna need that one so much. We'll see. The improved Iron Bark. I think so. The interesting, so we're probably gonna avoid this whole side of the tree. Intensity, abundance is not as useful. It gets more of like a raid frame thing or a raid thing. Again, not really gonna need any of this stuff. You're probably gonna stop over here and then go all the way down this side. The one caveat is gonna be thriving vegetation and germination. We'll see if germination is required as much as it is now. I'm feeling it probably is going to be, but you're gonna really have to choose between some important talents down here. So the new capstone, we have photosynthesis, which I feel like that sounds like the weakest out of these. Triple stack Life Bloom Mastery, which I don't know if that's good or not anymore, if they're going to change how Mastery works. Wait, okay, now I'm like second guessing myself. So Mastery does not work after 5 stacks. Am I right? Is it completely not work? Where was that? Okay, now can only apply up to 5 heal over time effects. So after 3 stacks, so if you're using this, you don't want other hots because it's not worth your time, I don't think. That's going to be interesting. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to turn out. That's kind of... this whole mastery is crap. I really wish they would just gut it. But Waking Dream is down here. Incarnate and Tree of Life are still the same thing. Call the Elder Druid is the same as it is now, so you get the old Heart of the Wild still, so you could still use this in a good way for like convoking and stuff like that, and you could pair this with the new Heart of the Wild. Dream of Sonaris is still the same, Reforestation is still the same, Thriving Vegetation the same. So honestly, in conclusion of all of this, I think we are looking forward to some good stuff in terms of the healing. I really like the healing route. I'm still up in the air with the mastery, but the healing changes should be simpler and it should be easier to heal and allow you to do more things on the class. Make it not so APM spammy of like, oh, I got purged, game over kind of thing. You should be able to reapply hots a little bit quicker because you don't need to apply so many. And I still wish they would buff the damage. That is a big concern of mine. If they do not buff damage, it kind of sucks. The shred does good damage, but you know, the other stuff is kind of really bad. So, and then losing kick and some of our utility, we'll have to see how that kind of flows into it, but I'm optimistic. If I were to say is this an improvement from the current version? I would say yes. Is it much of an improvement? I would say I don't know yet. So we'll see how it goes. Let me know what you guys think down below, and keep theory crafting. If I missed something, please let me know as well. And have a good one. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out.